Really sick of that thing doing double, but it's what happens when I have 4 to 5 panelists, folks. So, yes, there is possibly going to be some hiccups. The sooner I get rid of some of the windows, the better. So, we will be discussing a few important stuff coming in. And yeah, anyway, welcome back, everybody. It's Pal Orange Hat here with this lovely panel of panelists, and we are going to be discussing the weekly recap. We got Selena Gomez stuff, we got Mackie, Tom Welling, and then we're going to be discussing the 2004 movie Punisher. We are waiting on Novus Renaissance, but we are going to kick off the same topic that he wants to. But before we do, if you want to support my channel and want to like my channel and whatnot, just subscribe to the channel, Orange Hat, and I'm trying to get to 2,000 subs. Unfortunately, YouTube is now sending a hate algorithm my way because the Anthony Mackie video that I did, specifically of the topic we will be discussing tonight, it is ratioed to hell, and it's got a bunch of fucking haters or going on a harassment campaign essentially on my freaking video. Now, I don't mind getting hate; it happens, but the fact that it happens often to my channel where people will it just overwhelmingly gets haters to the point where I basically have to turn off comments or erase comments because some of the shit they say is pretty vile. But yeah, if you are not going to be civil on my channel or in my comment section, I will fucking erase your comment and then I will hide you from the channel. It is really that simple. I believe in civil discourse. I allow for civil discourse. However, you will not freaking mistreat people in my comment section. You will not mistreat my panelists, and you will not mistreat me. You do so, I have every right to kick you off of my fucking channel. Mm-hmm. So with that out of the way, we shall be getting into this. And yeah, let's say hello to the people who are in the chat. Sexy Goth Girl, good to see you. And how's everybody doing tonight? Well, we are all doing good, I'm guessing. So, yeah, we shall get to this first title, which is Selena Gomez versus the White House. So, to give you guys a bit of background, Selena Gomez did a little cry video. Now, to preface this, folks, first off, let me clarify. I support everybody's right to the First Amendment. And I support everybody's right to express themselves how they see fit. But you are going to understand a lot of other points as I go on with this. Selena Gomez said and cried a few things, cried a few tears, which I will show the video. Hopefully it won't skip. I'm sorry if it does. My internet sometimes isn't strong enough to handle 4 panelists and a shared screen. So we're going to try that tonight. So this is the video. It's on X. Let me also shrink the chat. But yeah, this is. You guys hear me okay with being another thing?
So far, so good.
Yeah.
5 by 5.
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna play this. This is 32 seconds of Selena Gomez crying, and then I'm gonna play a response that the White House released, and I will give a take on it. And well, some of you might be shocked by the take. So without further ado, let's hear what Selena Gomez has to say.
I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry. Only people are getting attacked. The children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but I can't. I don't know what to do. I'll try everything, I promise.
Okay, so she doesn't know what to do. It's called Write Up or Write to Your Local Congresswoman. her people are being attacked. America's under attack? Because last time I checked, Selena, you were born in America. You are an American citizen. Now, if you are talking about the Latin community or whatever and the illegals that are being deported, they are not being attacked. They are here illegally. They are simply being deported, with the priority being the more violent and whatnot. So this is a bit here. Some mothers of children who were brutally treated by immigrants. This was the White House that right here, the White House's official page released this video.
What about our children who were brutally murdered and raped and beat to death?
Just want to say that I'm so sorry. All my people are getting attacked. Children.
Seeing that video, it's hard to believe that it's actually genuine and real because she's an actress.
You don't know who you're crying for. What about our children who were brutally murdered and raped and beat to death and left on the floor by these illegal immigrants?
I just feel like it's a ruse to deceive people and to garner sympathy for lawlessness.
I wish I could do something, but I can't.
My daughter was a child. There's many other children whose lives were taken due to people who crossed here illegally.
They didn't cry for our daughters.
No one has stood up except for us mothers to cry out about our children.
I am so happy that Trump won. I am so glad that this is one of the first bills to help with immigration.
It's only been 2 weeks, if that, since he's been in office, and he's taking accountability and he's making moves and he's making things happen.
President Trump genuinely cares for the American people, and he cares for the American family.
I truly appreciate everything Donald Trump has done.
We stand with President Trump and make America safe again.
So yeah, that was the White House and their response. Next thing, Selena Gomez is a public figure, so her opinion is fair game to be used. A lot of people are like, well, so much for the First Amendment. Nobody's First Amendment rights were violated because she did delete that video. She deleted that video. And well, here's the thing. She's like, well, I guess it's not a good thing to garner sympathy for people. It's like, well, here's the thing, Selena. None of your people were being attacked. None of your people were being killed. So first off, you're a lying sack of shit in that regard. In that regard, you are lying. People who cross this border illegally are the ones who are being targeted first. And if another person who is undocumented is caught in the crossfire, well, yeah, they are going to be also deported and whatnot. Hello, Nia Zoe, good to see you. And everybody is, all right. So, yeah. When you put up that sort of thing, and the White House, now, the White House putting out that video, look, yeah, I get it. It's powerful. And yes, you are using these celebrities who come up with their own take on this to make your point, to drive the point home. And yeah.
Getting a little choppy there, Orange. Just a little bit.
All right, sorry. Yep.
No, I just want to give you a heads up.
Thank you. But yeah, here's the thing, folks. There's really, these people crossed illegally. They are criminals. You cross this border illegally into any country, be it our country, a different country, or another country, or whatever. If you do it without permission, you're breaking the law. And Selena Gomez, where were you when American citizens were being killed by illegals. Where were you when Laken Riley was killed? Why didn't you shed any tears for her? These mothers make a good point. Why aren't any of these celebrities crying for American blood being spilled by illegals? I think that is a question that Hollywood should answer. And I believe that they should be held to the same standard that we always hold them. But honestly, I don't really hold them to much of a standard because most of Hollywood are just about making themselves feel good. One thing, Selena, you got a lot of backlash and you deleted that video because it didn't get the response you wanted. We don't care about the people being deported. We don't. Their kids can go with them so that parents and whatnot are not, or so that families are not separated. Bye-bye, whole family. Don't fucking care. As brutal as that is, I am telling you this now, as brutal as it is to say that sometimes we need a little bit of brutal honesty. The celebrities speaking out, you are a public figure. If you get backlash, that is on you. And if you think that we are going to hold back, no, we're on even footing. We are on even footing, and we're not going to hold back because we already held back for 8 years because we were censored, demonized, and whatnot. So, yeah, I'm sorry. We are not going to hold back anymore. So now it's time to turn it over to the panelists. We will start with ladies first. Kate, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'd like to give her as much benefit of the doubt as possible. She is a woman who struggles with chronic depression. You can see from the video that she has a tattoo of the semicolon on her wrist, which, if you know, you know. She has admitted publicly that she has bipolar disorder. You don't know what that means, Orange?
No. Explain it for those who don't.
For those who don't know, it means that there was an attempt to take her own life in the past, and it symbolizes that basically. So I don't want to rail on her as much. Like, even though like my knee jerk reaction is this fucking idiot, you know. She's probably dealing with a lot of like mental health issues, with physical issues as well. She has lupus and whatnot. So I don't want to be as mean to her as, you know, I want to be. But I do think that she feels exactly that way. I think maybe it was also an attention grab for her new movie that's coming out. But I do think the words that she chose were really wrong. Like, my people, like, you grew up in Texas, your only affiliation with being Latina, Mexican American is that your mom got pregnant and then your father, who was the Mexican, left your mother and left you. And so you want to claim those people as your own? You want to claim the criminals who are killing women like Laken Riley and abusing children and trafficking children across the border? You want to claim those people as your people, the criminals? Like, really? And, you know, her net worth is like $1.3 billion. Yeah, you have a little if you went to your local Congress people, or you went to Congress and said, hey, you know, I'd like the laws to change to allow, you know, amnesty for some of these people. So I think she's dealing with mental health issues, B, misinformed or uninformed about what the real problems are, and C, I totally agree with you, Orange. She has the right to say whatever she wants. That's her First Amendment right. But then the reason she took down the video was other people exercising their First Amendment, saying, well, what about Laken Riley? What about these children that are abused? What about the little boy who's a paraplegic now because an illegal immigrant decided to get drunk and then drive 80 in a 40 and crash into another person's car? What about those people? So it's really I think it's funny that the White House released a video in response, but that's within their right. These women who have suffered because their children have suffered, they have the right to speak out and say, "Hey, we're crying over our kids, and you're crying over criminals." Here, that's the difference. So, it's maybe I'm hoping she realized the error of her ways. Maybe I'm being a little bit too optimistic in the situation, and she took down the video because she realized, wait, I'm being insensitive to the real victims in this. So, but maybe it was also an attention grab for her new movie. I don't know. I don't read minds. But again, I'm trying to give her as much benefit of the doubt as possible. But she's obviously misinformed. She doesn't know what she's talking about. And yet again, we have another celebrity who is just out of touch with the common man. So the response video from the White House with the mothers, I think, was a really great way of saying, like, hey, this is what the real issue is, and you don't know what you're talking about. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Orange, you're muted.
Novus, I know you wanted to discuss this, and what are your thoughts on the Selena Gomez thing? We played the video, and then we played the White House response video. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, good morning, Orange and all. I'll simply say this. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. Selena Gomez was making videos, and Selena Gomez was losing followers. Ultimately, this will pass. The interesting thing about the celebrities, I think Nerd with a Cigar got it, is we don't really know how genuine this is. We don't really know how it is for show. In the past, a lot of these type of things are used to build up profile analysis. They're also used to build up branding. But at the end of the day, this individual probably knows very little of the real situation. And she will leave this scene and nobody will really care. And honestly, we really don't care what Selena Gomez says. But we have observed her activity, and we've observed people the last 4 years, and certain people will probably not have a place in the world of Pre-Flood Earth, Door to Door, our series, because someday they will be the ones needing work, and there will be a remembrance of positions taken and all this nonsense. But that's the extent for us, is we really don't care. But it's interesting to see that the White House did give a response, because rarely that happens. But because it was done so quickly and decisively, it might give pause to other celebrities. Because I think in the resources, there's about 700,000 of her followers, quote unquote, that left all of a sudden. That's a pretty big dent. You obviously don't want to be losing that amount per week or per month. But at the end of the day, best of luck to you, Miss Gomez, and adios. Otherwise, let's go have fun and talk about something of true value with this fine fellowship of people and great creators of content here. And one of the most humble men on the web, Orange.
Thank you. Thank you, Novus. Ambassador, your thoughts?
Well, I have myself muted because this is not the first time I've seen this video. Ma'am Ambassador brought this to my attention a few days ago, and my response as it was replaying was the same response then. Uncontrollable laughter. Because here you have a young woman worth, I think Kate said, billions of dollars.
1.3 billion. Yeah.
Okay. Who is crying over a pack of, a massive group of illegal immigrant criminals who have broken our laws, have pillaged, murdered, and I will just use the word raped men, or well, not women, women and children, and she's crying over them. These animals don't deserve 1 ounce of tears. They're criminals. They deserve to be shipped out of this country. And I say, build that wall, build it 10 feet tall, and man it with as many machine guns as you're able to. As far as the White House's response with the women of the children and daughters that have been killed and assaulted, it was appropriate, it was measured, it was decisive, and I think it had much more of an impact than Miss Gomez's video ever could have. And that's my 2 cents.
All right. NB Geek, you got any that you want to put in?
Yeah. This is going to come from a military perspective, and strategic and psychological one. Selena Gomez is both ignorant and isolated because of where she is and the lifestyle she lives. She doesn't understand what any of us actually go through on a daily basis. She has no clue what she's talking about. She's ignorant. I'm not going to say she's stupid. She's ignorant of the facts. Simple. And the fact is, and I said this in my morning one because I got a couple guys I talked to in California who are very unhappy about the ICE raids. And I'm like, well, if your governors and your local leaders would work with ICE and the federal government, you wouldn't have this fucking problem. So, you know, that's what Tom Holland said. That's casualties because they weren't looking for those people, but they were there. They're illegal. Boom. They're criminals. And yes, they are. They broke the law. They came here illegally. Period. End of discussion. Okay. And if we had not kicked the can down the road since the Secure Fence Act, we wouldn't be in this fucking shithole that we're in right now, that we have to take these extreme measures. But no, Democrats just kicked the can down the road, got the amnesty, and fucked the Secure Fence Act. And then, you know, all that shit happened, and it was just like, it's been, what are we going on now? 40 years? Since the Secure Fence Act was even created. Yeah, so when I talk to these people like, do you think this is right? I said, it's what it has to be. Because it just comes down to a simple fact. If we hadn't kicked this can down the road, and we hadn't just let people have sanctuary cities, and we had not let the border open, we wouldn't have to go to extreme measures. But unfortunately, we now do. And that sucks. And also, one of the things I do love about it is one of the things I think she's crying about is she's seeing these people get deported. And they're crying and everything. And I'm like, yes, take videos of this stuff. Do this. Because this is going to show you what happens to you if you come into America. You're going to get your ass sent home. And it's been long overdue. And I mean, when it comes to people like Selena Gomez and the elites, they just live in a bubble because it doesn't affect them. I mean, if she's worth $1 billion, how does this affect her?
Well, in a manner of speaking, it doesn't. She's doing this because, as we've all pointed out, as you said very articulately, she is ignorant to the actual situation. Now, she might be playing this up for sympathy. She might be playing it up for publicity for her new project that's going to be coming out. She might be playing it up for any number of reasons. But quite frankly, three women that were given a voice by the White House completely and utterly, and I mean this pun intended, trumped her sorry little Instagram video. And, well, while that video still exists, hers doesn't. Because those three women have the pulse of the people.
Yeah, exactly.
Her pulse is so far removed that it might as well be up her ass.
Well, that's the problem that Hollywood's starting to have to deal with real quick, is that they're not, their voice doesn't matter anymore. And they just figured that out big time this last election. And with that being said, I'm going to leave it at that.
All right. So my final thoughts on this is, Selena, you were a bit disconnected with the American people on this. The point is, folks, Donald Trump was elected by sheer mandate of the people. Popular vote, Senate, Congress, electoral vote, it all went to him. He won the swing states or the battleground states or whatever. So yeah, he has been given an overwhelming mandate. Whether the left wants to try to downplay that or not, it's not happening. Or it is true that he has the mandate, and we want the illegals gone. If you came here illegally, you don't belong here. If you want to come here legally. Now, there's a thing from Neozoic, Orange Hat and Crew question: did you think Gomez's career is done because the video she posted, now deleted, and the controversy around the Emilia Perez movie? I have no idea about that, so I honestly cannot offer an opinion on it. I heard about this Emilia Perez movie on the bar room last week, and it sounds like nothing but woke garbage, so I really have no interest in it. All I know is that
I found about that movie is, sorry, Orange Hat.
All I know is that she did a video where she was crying, saying that people were, or her people, apparently Americans. Well, she is right. Americans were killed. Now, if you were talking about, different perspective here. If she was talking about Americans getting killed, she's absolutely right. And if you don't know what to do, well, use that 1.4 billion from your makeup brand, and I don't know, donate to politics or whatever. Who knows? But the point is, look, you made a fool of yourself. I'm sorry for whatever mental and depressing or any sort of mental anxiety that you may have. But we are in the real world. The real world is ugly. It's not full of sunshine and rainbows like all of Hollywood seems to think it is. But the thing is, the reality of it is exactly what Tom Homan said. They are going to paint this as the worst possible thing. They are going to show the people crying. They are going to show the people who are affected, the children and whatnot. I'm not going to care. I do not care. If they are here illegally, you're gone.
Yeah.
I don't
care.
Yeah.
I don't care if you are a child. I don't care if you are an adult. I don't care if you are sick. You came here illegally. And a lot of the ones who came here illegally hurt American people. You have fucking illegals that came here flipping off police officers and other people after they had just got out of court from murdering police officers.
Yeah.
You have people who freaking were let out of New York State by my bitchin' chief Kathy Hochul, and that person went on to murder and rape Laken Riley. Yeah, he was detained up in New York, and New York let him go due to Kathy Hochul's policies. Yeah, I'm calling out my governor directly.
Don't blame me.
But the point is, folks, Selena Gomez, you said some stuff that may have been ignorant. I'm not going to say you're stupid. You're entitled to your opinion, but the First Amendment, as well as the Second Amendment and all of the other amendments, you have these inalienable rights, but you also have the burden of responsibility that goes with these rights. If you say something and somebody has a different opinion, they are allowed to give that opinion, and they don't have to be nice about it. It would be nice if they were nice about it. However, they're not going to be nice about it if you are seemingly, in their eyes, downplaying a trauma of theirs, which your video was very insensitive to the deaths of Americans who died at the hands of illegals that you are supposedly crying about. That is how it's perceived. So yeah, with that out of the way, folks, we're going to move on
I
to
did
the
want to say
Anthony
one
Mackie.
last thing, Orange Hat, just to follow up on what you said, because you have a similar thing I say. I say you have the freedom of speech. You don't have the freedom from the consequences of that speech.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only if it's smart speech. Only if it's smart speech.
Okay.
And like it or not,
All right,
bullying is also protected by the First Amendment. People can make fun of you for saying stupid shit. Like, sorry.
Yeah.
It is what it
So-
is.
Here's the thing.
Speaking-
It's not just bullying. It's the only things that are not protected by the freedom of speech are called to violent action.
Right.
Mhm.
Everything else, and I mean everything else, is protected.
Right.
Yep.
Including the disgusting speech of people who like kids a little too much.
Well, one of the things also is, one of the things I remember somebody saying is, and I can't remember who it was, you don't combat free speech with censorship. You combat free speech with more free speech.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
All right,
Because
so we're going to move on.
And speaking of people who say stupid things, well, Captain America,
Anthony Mackie, yes.
Anthony Mackie,
Oh,
he
Nice
doesn't.
segue.
He does. Well, apparently, Selena Gomez doesn't have a corner on the market of saying stupid things. I give you Anthony Mackie, Captain Anti-America.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on. Go ahead,
Hashtag
George.
anti-America.
So
To be fair, I also say stupid things sometimes. So
Yeah, but you don't.
Sorry.
But you don't besmirch
all
the
do.
United States of. Yeah, but you don't besmirch the United States of America or a character based on the ideals of the United States of America.
true.
Do you?
Yeah.
On
Go ahead, or
So-
I'm gonna bring up the article or
Anyway.
whatever.
no, the worst
Yeah.
part is it was on foreign soil.
Oh yeah, it was
and
overseas.
Remember what happened to the Dixie Chicks?
Hey, Geek. Let's get into the article. Come on.
let's get into
Let's
the
take
article
focus.
or the video and whatnot first.
Yeah.
And so I can lead
Yeah.
this off, please.
Yes.
So, folks, Anthony Mackie kind of stepped in it over the last week. Said some stupid stuff, tried to back it up, or tried to walk it back with some more stupid stuff. And, well, now he's also going after some people a little bit, saying, shut the fuck up and just watch the fucking movie, because some people are recognizing the parallel of people's perceptions of Trump as the Red Hulk. So, yeah, we're going to start with the earlier stuff that Anthony Mackie said. And I'm not going to play this whole video all the way through. However, I'm going to give you the gist of it. So without further ado.
For me, Captain America represents a lot of different things. And I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. someone who is trustworthy and dependable. You know, it's kind of.
So essentially, he then goes into a spiel of kids slaying dragons and his ideals of it and whatnot, and how people have to grow up and whatnot. So then he walks it back and saying, just to be clear, I am a proud American and I support and respect all of the men and women who serve in our armed forces. Well, here's the thing, Anthony Mackie, a few years ago, 2021, I believe it was specifically, you made a statement about playing Captain America. It's kind of a fear to represent a country that doesn't represent you. Yeah, some of us remember that interview that you had with Variety, I believe it was. Yeah. And so when you say something like this, and you don't believe the term America is among those representations, you are rightly going to piss off a lot of people. You are rightly going to piss off the core audience of a Captain America movie, which are Americans. Now, you can say what you want. That is your right. But when you are going over to Europe and you are like, okay, maybe I should shit on America a little bit here with the representation bit. No, man. Might as well fucking stay over there. Because as I said in the response of this, those are the ideals of what it means to be an American, Anthony. But if you don't want to have Captain America represent America, then perhaps you shouldn't play the role. And people have gone after me in the comments and whatnot, and they're all like, well, he so much for freedom of speech and this and that. And it's like, he's entitled to say what he wants. Over here, anyway. I don't know about over there. If he says something over there that they don't like, they can arrest him. But the point is, you said something, and then you try to dumbass walk it back. A very shallow and a very hollow walk back that didn't quite work because, well, sure, you respect all the people who served and whatnot, except you literally shit on them in the first statement, and which is the first statement is usually the truest statement, folks. We learned that with Rachel Zegler after the election was over. Also, not to mention that statement back 4 years ago, there's a fear of representing a country that doesn't represent you. Yeah, we all know what you meant by that. So, yeah, and now you're also saying that people should shut the fuck up for making the rightful parallel that, the movie did want to make a parallel on, of Trump basically being Red Hulk and Thunderbolt Ross. Well, maybe people should just shut the fuck up and watch a movie. No, people want to go and be entertained. They don't want to be reminded of the real world. But I am going to turn this over to Geek because he is a vet from the armed forces, and he wanted to come on.
Thank you. Thank you for your support. You are worth it.
Oh, thanks.
All of you are worth it. So anyway, yeah, of course that pissed off veterans, a lot of veterans, because, you know, the American values that Captain America embodies are service, loyalty to your country, willing to fight and die, willing to give it your all, push yourself to your limits, and, you know, just try to succeed with whatever American dream you want. And yes, I understand many of those can be worldwide views, but that's literally what America is all about, is you can come from nothing and, well, I'll take Hillbilly Elegy for an example because I just watched it and it was about J.D. Vance. So you look at him, he grew up from nothing. Now he's the vice president of the United States. So that is, when I watched that movie, I'm like, that's the American dream right there. And I mean, he didn't even, the movie's not even about him being vice president. It was made years ago. It was about his getting his, whatever it is, associate as a lawyer. And then it flashed back to his time with his mama. And I'm like, yeah, this is something I can relate to.
All right.
And I mean, unfortunately, though, when you have Anthony Mackie coming out and first off saying that on foreign soil, okay, we had the Dixie Chicks incident long ago. And I remember when that happened, when they said, I'm sorry, Bush is our president. It's like, oh my God, you don't say that overseas, for God's sakes. That's embarrassing. And their careers took a fucking nosedive that never recovered. In fact, I remember quite clearly at the dance bar I used to go to, they popped on a Dixie Chick song and they turned it off and said, sorry, we don't allow communist music in here. And everybody cheered. No, because we're all military, or we're all dependents of military. So for him to come out and say Captain America doesn't represent America is a slap in the face to what Captain America represents. He represents somebody who came from nothing, got a chance, and ultimately got to live his American dream. I mean, at the end of Endgame. But the simple fact is, that's the goal of, or should be the goal of every American, is to strive for your American dream. And if you're going to do that, you have to work hard for it. I mean, that's what a merit-based system is all about.
Yep.
That's why I didn't like the good old boy systems. I hate that shit. So, yeah, the whole thing with him being in Rome and saying that shit. Look, I had no interest in seeing that movie, but then, finding out they were drawing parallels between Thaddeus and Thunderbolt and the Red Hulk as being like Trump, and this was supposed to be like, okay, we're done with Trump. Trump's gone. It's in a Brave New World. This was supposed to be a political movie.
Well, if I might interject here, the original title for this movie was Captain America: New World Order, and then they're like, oh crap, we're about to blow the lid off of the supposed New World Order we're trying to start, and then they changed it to.
Ooh, you said it, New World Order.
Yeah, that did not.
And then they well, if I might continue, geek. And then they're like, okay, let's change this quick, guy. We got to change it quick. What can we do? And they were like, Brave New World. We'll do Brave New World instead of New World Order. Here's the thing for me. Everybody here knows I have been a longtime Marvel fan, particularly with the MCU. I'll keep this brief. And I was intrigued by the teaser trailer for this movie. I was interested because they had Harrison Ford coming in as the recast for Thunderbolt Ross because William Hurt passed away, sadly. I was like, okay. And then you had Anthony Mackie and so on. And you've got, for heaven's sakes, Giancarlo Esposito as a member of the cast. I'm like, okay, this is shaping up. It could actually be good. I'm going to turn a phrase here. In Endgame, they refer to Steve Rogers, Captain America, and a particular part of his body as America's ass. Steve Rogers had America's ass. Anthony Mackie is an ass.
I see what you did there.
I like it.
He went
I
there.
like that. Well, one of the
Anyway,
problems I already knew I wasn't going to see this movie because I saw Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I'm
I
like,
actually enjoyed.
yeah,
I actually
well,
enjoyed Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I thought that was actually pretty good.
yeah, well,
Like-
my problem is you can't make me sympathize with terrorists. I fought
didn't
them
say-
too long.
Yeah, no, I get it. I didn't sympathize with the flag bashers or whatever they were called.
I don't
Flag
know.
smashers,
All
yeah.
I'm saying is you're
Flag
not
smashers.
going to make me. You're not going to
Yeah.
make me sympathize with a terrorist. I fought them
No.
for almost 20 years. So
Yeah,
I mean,
no,
that
I
was
agree with you.
I get, but that was the theme I took away from that series,
that's-
and I'm
and-
like, he is saying "fuck you, America." He's saying he's Captain America, but he's like, you got to do better, Senator. And he's like, you got to stop calling them terrorists. It's like, that's what
they are. Yeah, precisely. So, let me make one more.
I'm
comment
done.
here
By
and
the
then-
way, you can continue. You can go on.
Okay. The one does it. One more thing I want to mention here. This movie had the potential to actually be something, I think, actually really good. Like maybe a decent follow up to, say, Winter Soldier. Because let's be honest here, a lot of people agreed that Captain America Winter Soldier was a highlight of the Infinity Saga. Granted, it didn't play a big part in the Infinity Saga per se. It was more of a espionage film set in the MCU, and it worked very well in that way. But unfortunately, you see, we have had a resurgence of patriotism and pride in country in the U.S., especially since, well, November 5th and now January 20th. And Mr. Mackey's comments are not going to do this movie any favors. People in this country have a long memory. And when you besmirch the name of the country that you live in, that other people have fought and died for, so that you can have your freedom and you have the opportunity to pretend, Mr. Mackey, people are not going to be very forgiving. So, and with that, I yield the floor.
Kate?
Well, celebrities saying dumb stuff. Here we go again. Nothing new there. But yeah, if you can't stand up for your country in front of, an audience from around the world, then it's sad. My family came over 4 generations ago and they loved this country, and my grandfather was actually really upset when my mom and I moved to England and lived in London and France for a while. He was like, why would you want to go back to the old country? He loved this country so much he didn't even think about going overseas and besmirching America or its values. So it is, I think, just from the sour taste in people's mouths from the whole "you need to do better, Senator, and stop calling them terrorists." You mean the people that blew up innocent people so that they could, have start a war against whatever they wanted to start a war against? That sounds like terrorism to me. But I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I always want to give people the benefit of the doubt. I hoped he was going to be a good Captain America, but it doesn't seem like that's the way that Marvel is going at all. And it's kind of sad. Steve Rogers represented, the everyday man. At least in the first movie, he was, a little guy who wanted to enlist but couldn't because of his son and his inability. And then because of his heart and his character, he earned the title and of Captain America. And I don't think that Falcon, at least the character that they've written so far, has earned the title of Captain America. And then you get the actor saying this dumb stuff overseas, saying, "I don't think Captain America represents America." Well, then what does he represent? What is represented? And it kind of makes me sad that you know, what this is probably, Steve Rogers, played by Chris, is probably the last we're going to see of Captain America for a while until Marvel hopefully figures out, we don't want this kind of character. And the movie's probably going to flop a lot, and then they're going to blame the fans, calling them racist. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. And that's not why we don't want to see this movie. It's specifically because of the character that you've written, and then the actor that you put forward as Captain America, and we don't like it. If he doesn't represent America, then call him something else. Don't call him Captain America. And final thought, we saw Steve Rogers earn the right to wield Thor's hammer. Falcon could never.
Well, and here's one thing we do when they start screaming, "You're all racist." Many people, white people in particular, went to see Black Panther. The first one anyway, and made it a success. So don't give us that crap and call us racist, because we like Chadwick Boseman. We still happen to like Anthony Mackie. So take that racism crap and shove it up your butt sideways.
Long live the Wakanda Empire.
Novus, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, the whole round table right there was like smacking down stuff. We will say that with Falcon, I don't think that Mr. Mackie or Anthony has even really earned the right to play the Falcon, whose comic book character is supremely epic. We'll go back to the theories that we posted earlier with Anthony Mackie. First off, why does he not like Captain America? Is it because, one, Captain America is a 1940s Second World War combat veteran? Is it because, two, he's from 1940s America? Is it because, three, he was part of the U.S. military, particularly at the 1940s U.S. military? Four, is it because he's a real captain and Mackie will never be a real captain in the service? Like one of our esteemed colleagues here in the service. Five, is it because Captain America was not a socialist, and the first major issue, number one, of Captain America pictures him smack downing Adolf, Mr. H of the National Socialist German Workers' Party in the face? The sixth one, is it because he's part of the greatest generation and Mackie is not? And the last 2 points, is it because Captain America sided against Iron Man, against the United States government in the great series Civil War, against the Superhero Registration Act, or that he just doesn't like the Captain America costume? And bring the cap back, Anthony Mackie. Bring the cap back. If you look at this guy, the best thing he could have done was not say anything about the movie, because press is press, and it's going to get you exposed. And if you think about the things that he actually said, is those values, that has actually been seen over the American experiment as some core values of the good stuff that the country can do. Because every country has its ups and downs and pros and cons. But at the core, it's like America went over to Europe twice and saved it in 2 world wars that it didn't start. So if you look at the trends of Hollywood today, it mirrors a 1930s Germany in a lot of different ways, particularly the way it's structured, the way it's centrally organized, the way that their lists are made. So for Anthony Mackie to basically get out here and then give this rant before the movie kicks off, it's like starting the football game and punting on first down. It's like, come on, guy. And you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing the character any favors. And again, if you don't like the character, it's not your character. It's a mantle. So perhaps you retire from service and we can all say, au revoir. That's our side of it.
All right. And we got this question from Neozoic. How would we handle Captain America 4 if I was director, producer, writer, etc.? First off, if I had no choice, I would or Captain America 4, here's the thing. Falcon and the Winter Soldier I would have gotten rid of because, well, again, Captain America, my take on this, because I have watched it, I did not like it. One, Captain America does not sympathize with terrorists, no matter who's wearing the fucking Stars and Stripes. Two, you don't fucking play the race card saying, I can feel people judging me simply because of the color of my skin. Fuck off all the way. Three, You're not a super soldier. Whipping that shield around like Steve Rogers could? I'm sorry, I ain't buying it. Not unless you get the juice yourself.
That's a great point. Like, spot on.
And not only that, suddenly you're able to fly at Mach 1 and Mach 2 as a normal human being. By the way, without protective gear. You are telling me that a human body going Mach 1 is not crushing, or its spine is not crushing itself? Yeah, I'm having a hard time believing objectively some of the shit that happened in this movie. But also the fact that this, or how I would portray, getting back to the question here, I would have Bucky taking on the mantle. I would have had Bucky taking on the mantle. He was the one that was already set up in Winter Soldier. All the hints were there, including Bucky holding the shield like this across as a guard before he whips it back at Steve. So yeah, all of the hints were there. I mean, shit. Sam was the third person after, or was the fourth person after Steve Rogers to take the shield on. First, it was actually Clint Barton who managed to actually throw the shield perfectly on the first shot. And he's like, well, yeah, I've seen Cap do it enough times and it's just really easy for me. Then Winter Soldier took it for a while. Then Sam did. And the thing is, folks, I acknowledge that Sam took it on in the comics. I'm not saying he can't. And honestly, I think that Anthony Mackie is a great actor. Do not get me wrong. But he had a very bad take here. And now he's telling people to shut the fuck up and just watch the movie, when some people are saying, why does it feel that Thunderbolt Ross is being portrayed as a Trumpian allegory? Dude, you have no right to tell people to shut the fuck up for that. You have no right. We are allowed our opinions. We are allowed our observations. And if that is indeed the case, guess what? People are going to call it out. People are going to say it. This shouldn't have been done. Remember, this movie has 4 reshoots. Basically had to reshoot this whole movie through 4 times. You're looking at a budget realistically of $350 to $375 million, with a reported budget of $180 million, which I'm not buying for a second. You think this movie's going to pass? No, it's going to lose about $500 million.
If they're reshot 4 times, it's going to be a Frankenstein of a movie for the editors. And I feel bad for whatever editor has to
look at what happened to that
hashtag
movie.
Frankenfilm.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Look what happened to the Predator movie from 2018. There were so many freaking reshoots there too. So yeah, that movie turned out to suck as well. But the point
you can
is,
hear Arnold saying, "Get out now."
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
You can hear, oh Jesus, I was about to say what Renaissance said. But the point is, folks, Anthony Mackie had a bad take. Then he tried to walk it back, kind of stepped into even more shit. And him telling a person to shut the fuck up and just watch the movie. Look, you're entitled to that, but you're also entitled to the backlash, or you're responsible for the backlash that comes your way as well.
Exactly.
With that, is there any final thoughts?
He's going to have to deal with the consequences of this and the fallout, because when this movie started, how many years ago? It was supposed to be, I don't know, 2-3 years ago it was supposed to come out, and then they had to do the reshoots, and then I found out about the other reshoots they had to do after Trump won the election, and it's kind of like,
to say one thing briefly. If I was the writer and director and so on, or writer/director of this movie, Thunderbolt wins. Red Hulk crushes everybody, and everybody. Maybe some people live happily ever after. Maybe some other people, and maybe we have our first Hulk president. Can't do any worse than the former president did. I'm just saying.
The Weekend at Bernie's president. Is that what you're talking about? That guy.
That's a good one. Kate.
Weekend at Joe's.
Oh my gosh, that was so good, Kate. Nicely done.
That's what they were doing.
Okay.
They were holding up a dead body for 4 years. It felt like.
Kate, Weekend at Biden's.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, all right. Don't want to get too derailed, but yeah, Weekend at Biden's. Dang, now I gotta make that poster.
Is there
Dang
any,
it,
NB, Novus, is there any more final thoughts?
Or we'll conclude with basically like let's elect hashtag President Red Hulk, and hopefully with and the meme roll up of these sound bites is supremely epic. We'll say that. hopefully in the next 6 months, all the corporate execs pull in all the actors and say, all right, we're going to have to you guys are actually going to have to act for better for worse and just be regular movie stars and try to reinstitute the brand and don't say anything because, I know Hollywood leans very specifically on a political spectrum, as silly as it can be, because their audience, the people that watch the films, are not of that ideology. The people that buy the merchandise, that stand in the line, like for the Star Wars films, for all that stuff. So it's like they hate their audience that it gives them the billions. Yeah. So hopefully we're going to get a period of time over the next 4 years where people can just go back to making movies, and they may not like to make the movies for the brand of the audience, but it's like, hey, you're going to have to take your medicine and just put it in your mouth, swallow it, and pretend it's something else. That's what you're going to have to do, Hollywood, and be quiet with all your comments. We don't care, but we won't go see your films. So when you do have to reshoot Captain America 4 times, which is pathetic, you won't make money. Yeah. And it doesn't look like China is going to be coming to save you anytime soon.
You think?
I'm sure it's probably going to get banned in China. But moving on to our last one, folks, a very good actor, very good person, may have had his first official legal screw up. Tom Welling, Smallville actor, he was arrested at an Arby's parking lot in California for a DUI. And apparently this may be his first offense. So I'm hoping that they take it easy on him, because honestly, folks, he's a good guy. He has come across as a very kind guy and whatnot. And I'm going to bring up this article here just to give you guys a lowdown. So let's see here. Here it is. Tom Welling, best known for his iconic role as a young Superman. Actually, he wasn't Superman. He was just Clark Kent with the powers before he became Superman. But anyway, on the TV series Smallville, was arrested and taken into custody for driving under the influence in Eureka, California. The 47-year-old actor was arrested shortly after midnight on Sunday, January 26th. Apparently, well, yeah, he was arrested. This is his mugshot. 26 by officers from Eureka Police Department in the parking lot of an Arby's restaurant, according to Siskiyou County Sheriff's Office. TMZ was the first to break the news, highlighting the incident and sent shockwaves through Welling's fan base. The arrest details was booked for misdemeanor DUI with blood alcohol level at or above the legal limit of 0.08. The booking sheet describes the actor as having a clear complexion, stubble, short hair, and weighing approximately 240 pounds. Additionally, the document notes that his speech was clear during the arrest and lists his occupation as actor, self-employed. After processing, he was cited and released without bail shortly after 7 a.m. local time on Sunday. So basically, they put him in the drunk tank, the drunk tank, essentially.
They let him sleep it off. Yeah.
Yeah.
This swift release suggests that the charges may be handled as a first-time offense, though further legal proceedings could follow. On the day of the arrest, Welling took to Instagram to celebrate the birthday of his wife, Jessica Rose Lee Welling. He posted a heartfelt message accompanied by a series of photos stating happy birthday to our angel, who make our dreams come true and inspires us even more. We love you to the moon and back. Oh, Savage Garden fan. Tom and Jessica married in 2019 in the Vineyard, Santa Ynez, California. After dating for 5 years, the couple shares 2 young sons, Thomas Wild and Rocklyn Vaughn. They reside in Eureka, located about 16 miles south of California-Oregon border, and also own a ranch in Northern California. We're not going to go any further than that, folks. Basically, this is a guy who went 47 years keeping his nose clean. This is a guy, or honestly, I do hope that, or I am a fan of Tom Welling. I liked him in Lucifer. I liked him in Smallville. I believe that's all I have seen him in. And I do watch the Talkville podcast. I do watch the Talkville podcast religiously each week on Wednesday.
Just one thing real quick. He was actually one of the elder children in the remake of Cheaper by the Dozen with Steve Martin and Bonnie Hunt.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
And
excuse me.
But yeah, I'm hoping that it doesn't cause too much of a mark on his career, because it's like, look, dude, we've all been there. Me personally, I have not gotten a DUI. However, I have gotten a ticket, and yes, I've also been arrested through no fault of my own, but we all know what that was about. I'm hoping for the best of him, because, dude, he's a good actor. I like his acting style. He became a director during the time he was doing on Smallville, and I thought that he did good with those episodes as well. And now to turn it over to the panel, we'll start ladies first. Kate, did you like Smallville when it was on?
My friend, one of my very good friends from high school, got me into it. Actually, some of my my first viewings of Smallville were, I was recovering from surgery, and I was sitting on the couch with my friend, and we were watching Smallville together, and I really enjoyed the show. It was pre, Vampire Diaries CW, so it was still, I think they still had like pretty decent writing back then. And I enjoyed his character. I have enjoyed him in Cheaper by the Dozen. I don't know if I've seen him in any other thing, but I have seen him at Comic-Cons that he shows up to, and he's really great with the fans. I'm not one to throw stones for stuff like that. If this were like a repeated thing and he had like a repeated, alcohol abuse thing, I'd be like, yo, bro, get some help. But I hope that he has learned his lesson, and next time, dude, call an Uber. Like, it's it's not that serious, So hopefully, if this is just his first offense, we were discussing this before in the panel before we went live, depending on what state you're in, you might get a fine, slap on the wrist, and maybe have to do a DWI class or something, maybe some community service. But I hope he has learned the error of his ways, and yeah, I hope it doesn't put too sour of a mark on his career. I don't think it will. I mean, because if Mel Gibson can make a comeback, then he can too. Obviously, he wasn't as big as Mel Gibson in Hollywood, but hopefully he's not blackballed from the industry for this. Probably not, just because Hollywood has done some other things that are worse than getting drunk and getting behind the wheel of a car. But
like everything.
Right. Yeah. I was like, if that's the worst that he's done in 40 something years, like, all right, it's not to say like you get a free pass. Like it is dangerous to do that. And if you had hit somebody and hurt somebody, you'd be on trial for, something else. But I hope he learns the error of his ways and he calls an Uber next time, and or a Lyft or whatever, or calls a friend. There are options other than getting behind the wheel of a vehicle when you're inebriated. So yeah, I hope all the best for him, and if he does have a problem with alcohol, I hope he gets help.
Yeah.
But I hope to see him at conventions again, because he was really fun when I've seen him before. He's really great with the fans, and you can tell that he enjoyed playing Clark Kent, and he enjoys his interactions with the fans, which good on you, dude.
Ambassador.
I will echo Kate's sentiments here. Honestly, I was a fan, still am a fan of Smallville. I didn't catch the last couple of seasons, but I did watch the majority of the series. Very much enjoyed it. I have not watched Lucifer, not because of its content or what it focuses on, but I've seen clips of Tom Welling playing Kane. I thought his performance as Kane was actually pretty darn good. I understand they actually brought Tom Welling back to play one of the multiverse iterations of Superman. I think it was for Crisis on Infinite Earths, that crossover or whatever it was. He was great in that,
Yep.
playing opposite of John Cryer as a version of Lex Luthor. Fun fact, John Cryer actually played Lenny Luthor in Superman 4, The Quest for Peace. But in terms of, Tom Welling himself,
Great point.
In terms of Tom Welling himself, I hope he's able to get past this, that he can have a long and peaceful life with his wife and 2 kids, and maybe he'll return to either the big or the small screen. Either I would be happy with, because I did like him in the Cheaper by the Dozen movies, and I thought he was a good fit for those movies. So I pray for him. I hope the best for him, and I yield the floor.
And B.
Well, if you want to know if I'm a fan of Smallville,
I think
Nice.
that answers it.
Here it comes.
Very-
Here it comes.
no, I mean, I have to look at it from this perspective. As someone who's been arrested or detained a dozen times, he did the right thing. He cooperated with the cops. He didn't act like a spoiled celebrity or anything. So he was in a parking lot. Nobody was hurt. Kind of curious how they knew he was drinking, but that's either the here nor there. But I would imagine because he was in the parking lot, he was probably either sleeping some of it off or eating his Arby's before he was going to head home.
Or, well, he was in an Arby's parking lot, and depending on the reputation of said Arby's, he may have been inebriated so that he could actually enjoy the Arby's, because some Arby's are rather sketchy. Just say.
I
The
don't
only thing on that menu is the Jamocha shake, right?
No, I don't really care for. I don't really care for Arby's at all.
The Yelp critic here.
Yeah, but I mean, 47 years, you make one mistake, nobody got hurt. Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, he's gonna have a good lawyer. And yeah, I loved him in Smallville, loved him as Kane and Lucifer. I thought it really was an interesting change of pace. And, I mean, not the first person to make a fuck up one time, but, pay the fine, do the community service or whatever it is they give him, which I think they would because they said it was a misdemeanor. So, and he was cooperative with the police, which is what you always need to do. Every time I was arrested or detained, I never argued with the cop. That was one thing I was told very young in my life. When the cop tells you to get out of the door, put your hands behind your back, Don't fight them, just do it. Because either way, those handcuffs are going on you. But yeah, I would give this one, I would say it's unfortunate, but since nobody's hurt and California labels this as a misdemeanor, then I think fine, probation, maybe
everything you've mentioned already.
DWI, because I don't know what California's
well,
Make more
DUI.
Smallville episodes free.
I know they have DUI and DWI, which was their way
this
of
is a DUI misdemeanor. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, they also have in California called DWI.
Most places drunk while
Intoxicated, but
driving while intoxicated.
Yeah, and yeah, they usually, when somebody gets that, they'll usually, when it's low like that, they'll slap them with deal with the wet and reckless, which is what a DWI would be called.
Right. So let's. Now, what's your thoughts?
Well, what's interesting is when we were talking about this, we were thinking that with the Smallville, it's a very interesting comment that was made about. I think you said it, Orange. If you're not the one, that I apologize. But how he's Clark Kent, but he's not yet Superman, and he's learning things. And there was a wonderful scene in one of the seasons of Smallville when Christopher Reeve, the Superman of Supermans, he shows up and he has a dialogue with him. So as much as that scene is iconic because it shows the passing of it from him to the next generation up and coming, it's also reflective from like the fatherly figure talking to the son in a sense. And it would kind of like within this realm, if this was happening in the show, it'd be nice, like, you know, if you have sort of like the Jor-El come and talk to Tom Welling, you know, and hopefully he has something like that where there's an elderly, strong man that's in his life that he can turn to help him go through this. However, it is a misdemeanor, and it appears like from what we know with the open source, I mean, nothing really happened. And if this guy has had a clean cut record, you know, there is clemency and some mercy, and ultimately, I mean, this will pass over. But thankfully, he didn't have anything happen like as far as seriously. Think Nerd, you know, she mentioned Uber. He could have done Uber and out, but I don't think that this his entire career. I don't think this should do anything to it. The biggest credit to him is that he was fully cooperative, and we think he probably, obviously, we only know about people from what we know publicly, but we'd like to think that he would be probably saying something in the courtroom to the judge, like, I will definitely volunteer to do, you know, X amount of hours of community service or something like that. And then, yeah, he wasn't as the iconic status of Mel Gibson, who, you know, got Oscars for both like Braveheart Best Picture and Best Director back in the 1996 Oscars, which has fallen far from the tree. Yeah, sort of almost fiery purge this year for both the Golden Globes and the Oscars and ratings and other things. But he's not on that level. And if Mel Gibson has made a comeback, then if he wants to make a comeback, it shouldn't have any problems. But hopefully he can learn from this, become a better human being. And we'll conclude with that, as hopefully we all can become better human beings as we grow in life.
All right. Does anybody else have anything they want to say about this before we move on to the movie discussion?
Well, I'm actually going to have to get out of here because my wife is going to bed and I'm going to go snuggle with her for a little bit.
Enjoy.
All right. Have a good night, Jess.
TTFN. Ta-ta for now.
Farewell.
Okay, folks. So now we are going to move on to our movie discussion. Punisher 2004. So
the definitive version.
Yep, indeed.
Well,
This
except for John
movie-
Bernthal. Yeah.
Yeah. So, 2004 Punisher with Thomas Jane, Kevin Nash, Dave Foster,
John Travolta.
Will-
Rebecca Romaine, John Panay, John Travolta. I mean, who else was in this fucking movie?
Was starring
Um,
Thomas Jane, John Travolta, Will Patton, Roy Scheider,
Yes.
John.
yep,
Roy
Roy
Scheider.
Scheider.
Laura Herring,
Yeah.
Ben Foster, and Rebecca Romney Stamos.
Oh, she was Joan. I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was watching it.
I did not realize that was her. Like, wait,
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen her
Mhm.
before. Like, oh, right, you were blue once.
yeah, yeah.
You
Her
were
first scene, I was
blue
like,
and
"Hey, it's Mystique." Yeah.
you were blue and nude once.
Even the
Yep.
voice.
hmm
Yeah.
I completely missed that. Anyway, moving on.
But yeah, so this movie, I gotta say, Lionsgate has a very good consistency when it comes to shock value and brutality, especially in movies that call for it, which The Punisher does. Because
Oh yeah.
for those of you who don't know, in the comics, he's gunned down, or his family's gunned down by the mob. In this movie, it's his whole
rundown.
family, his whole fucking family, not just his kids and his wife, but his whole fucking family are wiped out from basically a drug trafficking family in Florida. And the reason why was because one of those idiots of that family, one of the twin kids, decides to go and do an illegal arms trade and gets caught during an FBI sting. And, well, they find out that Frank was one of the undercover ops there and we also find out that John Travolta, he's the leader of the family, but his wife is one of the most evil bitches out there. I mean,
Yeah.
folks, she was the one that actually said his family, his whole family. And I'm like, evil.
Yeah, I was like,
Psychology.
"Damn, Lady Macbeth!" Like, shit.
Well, here's the
I
funny thing
mean-
about this. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Lady Macbeth felt bad.
Well, the funny thing about this movie isn't actually this is actually an adaptation of at least a couple of storylines from the Ultimate Punisher storyline from the early 2000s. Because I don't know, for those who might remember, back in the early 2000s, Marvel Comics did a 2 or 3 reboots and called it the Ultimate Universe. Included the Ultimate X-Men, Ultimate Avengers, and Ultimate Punisher. And I remember quite vividly reading the particular storyline that involved at least part of this, because it wasn't the Saint crime family, it was another crime family, but a prominent character in that was, of course, the Russian played by Kevin Nash, which I did not realize that was Kevin Nash. So they had some really good makeup work on him, not to mention he was kind of bulky. He was a bit bulkier and had more muscle mass than what I remember him from his days in the WWF and WCW. But anyway, I digress.
Wow.
We got a question from Neozoic here. How would we compare this one to other 2004 comic book superhero films such as Hellboy, Spider-Man 2, Catwoman, Pixar's The Incredibles, and Blade Trinity? This one was definitely chief among them.
Yes.
Spider-Man 2
Catwoman
was
sucks.
good, don't get me wrong, but
Meow.
this one was definitely chief among them. And
Yeah,
there's a
Blade
scene.
Trinity was the worst of the Blade movies. Catwoman was
Oh,
trash. Pixar's The Incredibles, and I think I've said this on a previous video of yours, Orange, but The Incredibles is the Fantastic Four movie that we always wanted.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great.
Spider-Man 2 is great.
Yes.
Yeah.
To give my own rating, it's definitely going to be Spider-Man 2, The Incredibles, Punisher, Hellboy, and then Blade Trinity. But I will say this: I actually enjoy Blade Trinity quite a bit. I know a lot of people didn't. Some of y'all on this panel, that's fine. You have your preference, as do I. But I was talking with a buddy of mine, and I posited the idea: had this ever been carried on, what if there had been a crossover between this Punisher and Blade?
Would have been cool.
Yeah,
I would have liked to have seen this Punisher versus Spider-Man.
Well, that could have worked too, or even a team up.
But they were different. They were different studios.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
Yeah, but if Marvel and
Sony and
could have
Marvel.
pulled it off, if Sony and Marvel could have pulled it off, they could have probably pulled it off then and made boatloads of money. I mean, let's face it.
Possibly.
Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
But now he also had a partner in the FBI that he gave a watch to in the movie, and there's a deleted scene that's not in the movie. It's in the extended edition of the movie, but that's harder to find. But he goes to his friend, the black guy that was also in the FBI, because he noticed that when he showed up alive, Frank noticed he's not wearing his watch. And apparently the guy had some debts to the Saints family because at the club Saints and Sinners where he was gambling and whatnot. And well, he's like, dude, you're the one who turned in my family. You turned in my family. They are all dead because of you. So I'm not going to kill you. However, I am going to give you this bullet. And that's all. Well, we know what he did after the ex-partner self-deleted, so to speak. But this movie does also have a very. It's a darker. I mean, the story of Frank Castle is dark, folks. There's no getting around that. And I absolutely love how in the fight with the Russian, Kevin Nash was actually stabbed. The knife was a real knife, went into his flesh, and he just played it off. He smiles, grabs Thomas's hand, and just pulls the damn thing out slowly. And I'm like, when I realized that was a real knife, I'm like, oh shit. You know? It's like, oh shit. But I also love I love the brutality of that fight too, because he hits the table that releases the revolver. And so Nash just smashes the revolver. And I love it. And then he gets thrown through a wall. That was actually Thomas Jane who got thrown through the wall, because he had to recover and crawl away in the same shot without a cutaway. And it wasn't expected that he would go through all the way and hit his face on the wall or on the opposite wall. So they went through a lot of shit in this movie, a lot of pain and problems and whatnot. It is such great, that whole fight was so freaking great. I love, after they fall down the stairs, and also Kevin Nash's character gets a face full of hot boiling grease. They did
it's water,
that great with the makeup. Yeah. And it's like they're all listening to L'Adone Mobile. And
a great contrast scene, and they're cooking.
Yes.
Yeah. And then it comes into there and whatnot. But there's also the shot of Dave Foster going like this and dancing, and off or across the yard is Frank's window, and he's getting dragged across. And the second Frank leaves frame, he turns towards Frank's window and just misses what happened over there. And it's so freaking great. Fun fact, originally the character Microchip, Punisher's ally from the comics, was going to be included in this movie, but scrapped due to the director's distaste for the character. Oh shit.
I think that's. Well, here's the thing. They were
actually,
trying to go for a more realistic version of this universe.
Yeah.
So anyway, moving on.
Thomas Jane is in Spider-Man 2 at the scene where Mary Jane is running in her wedding dress. There's a guy who looks at her. No fucking way. Red
didn't know
Russian
that.
Hulk or Hulk Pistol Smash. Yeah. I'm definitely gonna go back and look at that, dude. Definitely going to go back and look at that. But one of my absolute favorite parts is the lead up to the climax, because John Travolta kills his best friend and then kills his wife in such a cold manner, and his son comes out and he's like, "Where's Quentin? He's wrapped up in something. He's literally wrapped up in a rug. I called the house, no one's there. Your mom's gone. What? She took the train." I mean, and he's just so fucking cold about it, and he doesn't realize that Quentin was gay. Quentin was actually gay, and Will Patton, who plays the character, everybody will remember him from movies like Armageddon.
Yep.
Where he played Chick,
Yep.
Chick.
Yeah, Chick.
And
Chick Chapel.
Oh my god, Chick Chapel. He did a great job in that movie. Does a great job in this one because he's playing a hard ass, but he's also playing his hard assedness is closeting his homosexuality. Yeah.
And he's a sadist.
Oh yeah, he's a sadist and whatnot. But it's like, oh my god, dude, the way that, or the whole speech of Castle, I write this as a declaration of intent. One, sic vis or civis pacem para bellum. And he says Latin. The Marine boot sergeant made us recite it as a prayer. Civis pacem para bellum. If you want peace, prepare for war.
Yeah.
And so then after they cut away to the to Travolta's coming back to Saints and Sinners, then they cut back to Frank, and he's like, 2, Frank Castle's dead. He died with his family. 3, this is not vengeance. Vengeance isn't a valid motive. It's an emotional response. The law is inadequate, and to shame its inadequacy, it's necessary to act outside the law. This is not vengeance. This is punishment.
Yep.
And I love that whole bit because this is a guy who took a shot to the chest, a couple other shots to the body and his leg, and the knife that he was fighting that guy with the white hair, puts it up through his chin. That's the same knife that the guy pulled on him at the beginning of the film when his family was getting slaughtered. So, yeah, this dude brings back all of the weapons to use against them that was used against him at first. So, also, what did y'all think of the gangland assassination of his family in the movie? Start with Kate.
That was brutal because they're just, you think that he makes that promise to his son. He has that whole conversation where his son's like hiding in the doghouse, and he's like, no, this is the last time. And you really feel that he's had, this long career of having to choose career over family, and then he gets this moment of happiness with his family before it's all taken away, and which kind of, I'm not go on like a murder spree and start punishing people. That's not what I'm saying, but you can understand where he's coming from. You're like, oh, this guy has nothing left to lose. And I think Thomas Jane played a really good Punisher. I wasn't as convinced with like the lighthearted moments that he had, because I was just like, bro, this is the dude from Outlander, and like I good at that like brutal stuff, but not great at those lighthearted moments. But yeah, it was sad to see, like you see the mother and son, running down the pier, and then the SUV just like run them down, and then they're shooting down the whole family. Like the first moment when he goes, "Mom," after he sees her get shot, you're like, "Oh man!" Like right in front of his whole family, like or right in front of his eyes, his whole family. And so the brutality that Howard Saint performed on his family, it makes sense that Frank Castle, or rather the Punisher, came back and was like, you know what, you did this to me, I'm gonna do this to you. And yeah, it was pretty. This movie needed to be rated R, and so anytime they make a Punisher that's like not like gory and terrible, like that, it doesn't do the story justice, in my opinion. You can't PG-13 the Punisher, like you just can't. Um, but I was looking after watching the movie, and I've seen it before, but it had been a while. I was looking at the like Rotten Tomatoes, IMDb score, and Metacritic, and I'm like, Rotten Tomatoes is sitting at 29, Metacritic is 33, IMDb is 6.4, and I'm like, man, people are harsh on this film.
Well, I think one of the reasons why, Novus, I feel like Novus, did you want to chime in here before I do?
Well, actually, go ahead, take on because we have some context within the Punisher generally, and we're gonna contrast the family death sequence of this film, with the hard to kill sequence with Steven Seagal, and we're gonna make a point with it. So go ahead, do your thing.
Okay. I think one of the reasons why, Kate, this movie has such a low score is because at the time, comic book movies were kind of in a weird place. We had gotten some really good superhero movie content with like Spider-Man 2, I would say, including also The Incredibles and so on. People weren't. One of the things that was really working against this movie, people aren't as familiar with the character of the Punisher as they are, say, with the Spider-Man or the Fantastic Four or the X-Men or so on. So that was one thing that was working against it. Now, you had a very good cast. I won't say decent. I will say very good cast with this movie. Granted, Thomas Jane wasn't a well-known name at the time, but he carried this movie with the character of Frank Castle, aka the Punisher, and he did I would say, a stupendous job. You had John Travolta, who has, since his resurgence in the mid-90s with Pulp Fiction and so on, he rebuilt his career playing the bad guy. And he's done well at it. Now, granted, with varying degrees of success. But in this particular instance, he did well as Thomas Saint. But the issue is people, as I said, weren't as familiar with the Punisher as they are with other superhero properties, particularly in the Marvel Universe. This is a guy who is essentially no pun intended, a black and white vigilante. He kills other criminals. He takes out crime families. He takes out the dregs of society, and he's good at it. You've got now the original incarnation of the Punisher. He was a Vietnam veteran. This version, he's an FBI undercover operative. Not to mention, he does have military expertise. And I can't remember who asked the question in the comments. I think it was, Neozoic. Just to give my 2 cents on your question, Neozoic, how would I rank Thomas Jane with Dolph Lundgren, Ray Stevens, and John Bernthal? I would put, honestly, Thomas Jane at the top of this list, then John Bernthal, then Ray Stevens, and then Dolph Lundgren. But that's just my ranking. Now, I'm familiar with 3 out of the 4 of
I
these
agree with it.
iterations. I'm not as familiar with Dolph Lundgren, but honestly, and I say this with no disrespect to Mr. Lundgren, I'm not a very big fan of his acting. I'm not saying he's necessarily a bad actor, but he was just a big guy. His acting range wasn't that big. I mean, this is a guy that played He-Man and the Heavy and Rocky IV.
Are you kidding? Those are masterful roles, Oscar nomination worthy, easily.
Okay.
Easily.
Okay. All right, Novitz, I know what you're trying to do. It is funny, and it is funny. I get the humor, but I think one of the reasons why this movie, I think it honestly, granted, this movie is now 21 years old, give or take, and I would say it's actually grown a rather big cult fan base, and I think justifiably so, because people go back and rewatch this and go, you know what? This was actually really good, because I think this was as good an interpretation of the character of Frank Castle as we've gotten to say since John Bernthal's performance. And I think I think John Bernthal's performance owes a lot of I think he took some inspiration from Thomas Jane's portrayal. As I said, I've only seen clips of the Netflix Punisher series, so I can't speak in total. But just based on Bernthal's performance and mirroring it paralleling it next to Thomas Jane's, you can see parallels here. Granted, there are differences with the two different iterations of the Punisher. But if it had not been for this movie, I don't think Netflix would have ever taken the chance to do a Marvel series on the Punisher and it to be as well received as it was. So,
well, it's because they introduced the character in Daredevil, and or it's season 2 of Daredevil, and he did a great job, and he was liked there. There's a scene where he's breaking out of prison and he just like bodies everybody, and everybody's like, "Ooh, I want to see more of that." And I think that kind of like paved the way for John Bernthal to get his own Punisher series.
Yeah, definitely.
I might be wrong, but I remember watching him in Daredevil and going, "Oh man, that was good!" Like,
It's kind of sad you get the great moments of these characters in like association parts when they have an actual film to make the whole movie. They're not able to do that.
There is actually there was supposed to be a sequel. Yes, somebody made a fan sequel with Thomas Jane. I cannot watch it on here, folks. So, but there is a fan sequel out there.
Wow.
And it's actually a pretty decent one. It's a few minutes long, and I thought it was pretty decent. Unfortunately, Thomas Jane had a clear white skull shirt for the Punisher instead of the dirt skull. I actually have that dirt skull one that he has for this movie. I actually have that shirt, which is pretty cool. And I wear it on occasion. But yeah, this movie is also very quotable. I mean, one of the best, and folks, this is the funniest fucking scene in any Marvel movie I have ever seen, and that's even compared with Deadpool and Wolverine. Frank Castle's about to torture Mickey. The blowtorch scene, folks. The blowtorch scene. Yeah.
Yes.
2,000 degrees, Mick.
Intense.
Enough to turn steel into butter. And then he goes into the whole anatomy. It's like, it won't hurt at first, you see. It's too hot. And this flame sears nerve endings shut, killing them. And then all you feel is cold. Ain't science fun, Mickey? And then he does what is the most painful thing to any guy ever. He pinches the armpit hair of the guy, or of Mickey. And it's like, that's torture in itself, man.
That's the most painful a guy can experience?
No, there's a lot more, but it is.
Okay, I was like,
it's up there. It's up there.
It's an appetizer.
Okay. But
it's an appetizer.
Okay. Yeah. But anyway, he then starts. He's like, "You'll smell burning meat, and then it'll hurt." And the dude's like, "I swear I'm telling the truth." So he starts jabbing him with a fucking popsicle and starts burning the slab of meat, and it's just so fucking hilarious. And his two cohorts outside, John Panay and Ben Foster, is like, "Should we call the police? Let's stay out of it. He's a very scary man. He's killing somebody,
I love that
and
line.
we're next." He's like, "He's killing somebody, and we're next." Exactly. He just leaves him out there. Ben Foster, folks, who you all probably won't recognize, he was in X3 as Angel. He was in the oh god damn it, what's it called? Warcraft movie. He also was in Inferno, which we discussed, as the guy that wants to basically murder half of humanity. So yeah, he's played a lot of movies since he's come around as the N64 wheelchair riding Dave from Punisher. So yeah, that whole scene was just so freaking hilarious. And it's so minuscule, I know. All it takes is a blowtorch and a freaking popsicle to torture somebody, to make them think, and a little bit of anatomy lesson to make them think they're actually being blowtorched. And it's like, holy shit, man. Now, yeah, obviously it was exaggerated for comedic purpose. But what if it was real, you know? What if that is actually what happens and such? And it just makes a person, or it just really highlights Frank Castle's counterterrorism unit training that he received, which was so freaking great. Orange Hat and Crew, how would you compare Punisher with other R-rated comic films such as Logan, Crow, Joker, yada yada, all these? It's up there. I mean, yeah, it's up there. Crow is also very good. Logan is just pieces flying everywhere. V for Vendetta was great. Dread is the best. Dread is, folks, Dread is the best, which we're going to be discussing next weekend. Dread is the best comic book movie adaptation I have ever seen. But out of all these, Blade 1 and 2 two was very heavy with the CGI, and I think they shouldn't have updated vampire ashing like they did, because it's like, be a little bit more consistent with that shit. Yeah. But yeah, Punisher is a close second to Dread. V for Vendetta was also very good too. Constantine, I'm waiting for Keanu Reeves' second Constantine movie, which they said is supposed to be happening. So
it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
gotta be a little patient,
and so
it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and so moving into another moment in this movie, where was it? The reveal that he is alive. And it's like, it's been 5 months since my family was killed. I don't see a single person in jail. Obviously, you're upset. Oh, upset? Is that the word? I used to get upset when I had a flat tire. I used to get upset when a plane was delayed. I used to get upset when the Yankees won the series. He's from Florida, obviously. He's going to hate the Yankees. But if that's what upset means, if that's what upset means, then how do I feel now? If you know the answer, tell me, because I don't. But in that scene, it was in that scene that he realized his friend didn't have his watch anymore. And it's like, holy crap, man. I absolutely love it. And also, Frank Castle rips off his own freaking gravestone and delivers it to Howard Saint. It's like, Pop, you ain't going to believe this. Thinking I might. And it's like, yeah, this dude is not going to fuck around. So what were your all thoughts on Frank Castle coming out? You know? We'll start with Kate.
Novus, we haven't heard from you. I'll yield the floor to Novus on this one.
All right, Novus, go.
Thank you, Orange and Our Lady. So we're just going to do a quick double back, and then we'll make a point with the film overall. So acknowledging that it's a tragic scene with the mercenaries killing Frank Castle's family, we don't think it's actually the best presentation of how it could have gone down. We're going to reference Steven Seagal's Hard to Kill film, because when you actually see that, because if you actually watch the sequence, you know the truck's coming, but you don't actually see, sorry for all those that are hearing this, it's spoilers, you don't actually see the son and the wife get basically taken out. They stop the sequence right before the truck runs them over. So then he comes upon them. If you have a film like Steven Seagal's Hard to Kill, you've got it where he actually has to watch, and he doesn't know if his son makes it because it's like after the fact, but his wife is essentially defenseless, and he's been ambushed and he has to watch it. He's able to get something out of it with taking out a couple more bad guys, but he already knows that he's lost his family, with the exception of his son. But I think one of the things too, if you know, with this film, but it's not just this film, it's also with the series of it, is that I think you have these lost opportunities, because this film from a technological standpoint isn't hard to make because it's in the time in 2004. And yes, you go back to Dolph Lundgren as the first Punisher chronologically with dark hair in 1989. You know, it's got a lot of guns and prospectively low tech, so you're able to do things. It's not hard. But if you actually study like the character of the Punisher, I don't understand why it's so difficult for the studios to grasp how do you frame this properly. Because I think what we're dealing with 2004, we didn't see the show, but I think all these films that have come out since 1989 with Dolph Lundgren to present, I don't understand why it's so difficult to grasp the films, because we pulled it up on Wikipedia, but basically the bottom line that it talks about with the Punisher is, going off of Wikipedia, is the character is depicted as an Italian-American vigilante who employs murder, kidnapping, extortion, coercion, threats of violence, and torture in his campaign against crime. Driven by the deaths of his wife and 2 children, who were killed by the mob for witnessing a kill in New York City, the Punisher manages a one-man war on crime. Castle is a veteran U.S. Marine Corps scout, sniper, and force recon. The stories initially place his military service in Vietnam, but it was later changed to the Iraq War, and then he's skilled to hand-to-hand combat. So you look at what the 2004 Punisher did, it put him as a lawman with a reference to it. So when it comes to film like the 2004 Punisher, here's the critique of it. Why not have it be in the 70s, or maybe very late 70s, early 80s? Maybe where he is Major Frank Castle. Maybe he's on the active duty post-war. He just got back from the Vietnam War. Why strip the Vietnam War? That also opens up the market, because you would potentially have a lot of people coming to see it from the veterans community, because like, oh, this is a Vietnam related war film. And then you could have him with PTSD, and then when his family's killed, now it sends it off. But to say that, oh, he was in the Marine Corps, you know, or the military service and got some training, we lose that. You could have started a brilliant sequence with him actually being in a significant battle in Vietnam. And particularly since he's cast as a Marine, that could be anything from Way City to Khe Sanh. So it would be incredible depiction. So there's one. And then this covers basically with the Sony, you know, Sony's got Spider-Man, and then DC has or Marvel's got the Punisher. But the first entrance to the Punisher in the comics it's the Amazing Spider-Man 129, cover date 1974, and he's depicted as an assassin and adversary to the superhero of Spider-Man. So obviously now, you know, there's challenges to do that. But how awesome would it have been is you've got an opening sequence of him in the Vietnam War, transitioning, families killed, so you understand this, him going on a hit spree run, and then you have him clashing with Spider-Man. So summary basically, and then, you know, and it kind of gets into this, is that, you know, it would be nice if they could just take a little more time to really make these films mature in all the efforts that people have done over the decades to make the comics. Because what happens, unfortunately, is you have like 4 or 5 Punisher movies now, and it's kind of like in The Good Place when they're eating frozen yogurt. He's like, well, yeah, you know, frozen yogurt, you know, it's not as good as ice cream. It's just a little less bad. And it's kind of like, how many are you gonna keep making before you finally get it right? Including the iconic character of the White Skull, glove gauntlets, and the white boots. So the film does have some really memorable moments. I mean, the Russian sequence and stuff, but it's losing things that could make it more powerful. So I mean, overall good, but it's not getting off the ground because of those things. Maybe they'll remake it someday properly, but we'll see.
No, excuse me. Sorry about that, folks. All right. Kate, your thoughts?
Oh, sorry. What was the original question? Because we're just talking about overall. What was It was
coming out, or Frank coming out to the media and whatnot, or the media finding him and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm not as familiar with the Punisher comic books as some other people might be, and so I would assume that I would be the target audience for a movie like this, of a like an introduction, or I guess Dolph was the introduction. But um yeah, I don't know, as far as like his like Frank's character going directly to the media, because he should just go on a spree of violence, in my opinion, instead of going directly to the media and saying, hey, get on my side. He doesn't want anybody on his side, because the people that were on his side were all gunned down and killed by the mob. But there's maybe they were just trying to tie it back to the real world. It is very there's lots of scenes, including that one, where it felt very early 2000s, not in a bad way, but you guys are movie lovers, cinephiles. You can probably tell when you're watching an early 2000s movie without looking at the release date within the first couple scenes. So I don't dislike all of the changes, or all of the differences that they made. And I have seen Steven Seagal's as well, and maybe I should just go reference the comic books, but um, a little bit more, just to get more well-rounded with this character, because I liked Orange's version of the Punisher in his little um, fan made.
Story, yeah.
Yeah, the story that
Okay,
you
I
had.
need to read that.
So
Yeah.
The
Um,
Dark Marvel universe.
yeah, the Dark Marvel. So those are my thoughts.
All right. Ambassador, did you go yet?
Well, in terms of analyzing him returning to the public and announcing the reports of my death are grossly exaggerated. But there's something I wanted to piggyback on in regards to Novus's analysis. I actually like the idea of having perhaps, if they ever did do another iteration, having the Vietnam conflict as a backdrop for this story. But I also want to talk about, there's another scene and everything when it's the first hit that's put out by the Saints, and they bring in Henry Heck. Now, I will say the whole Henry Heck sequence.
Heck, yeah. Sorry.
I love that sequence. Yeah. But here's the thing. You mentioned him being a Vietnam vet, him being Special Forces, Marines, and so on. If they were to do another Punisher, have Henry Heck potentially be the main antagonist, and have him and Castle have served together during Vietnam. But the clinker is Heck was kill crazy, in a manner of speaking, for lack of a better term, and have a sort of cat and mouse game between Heck and Castle. And this would also play into Castle's PTSD, not to mention Henry Heck, because let's be honest here, a lot of vets from Vietnam, and not to mention all conflicts, really coming back to, as they say in the service, coming back to the world with PTSD. These are both damaged guys, but one's gone unhinged. And have it be Heck and maybe a crew of minor lackeys, or whatever the case be, the ones that take out Castle's family. Then you've really amped up the drama and the or even have Heck. No, keep it simple. Keep it to that. And then that be the jumping off point for Castle going on his, for lack of a better term, crusade against crime, and have it include going after organized crime, have it going after killers for hire and things of that sort.
Yeah, and that's a great point because but now what that requires is actually analysis skill for writing a script. And a practical adaptation is like, okay, he was in the Vietnam War originally, the comic is released in the 70s, and then you have
Yeah.
the first movie in the 80s. So, okay, what's an appropriate change? You could shift it over to the Iraq War or Afghanistan War. You could still keep it with the
Yeah.
Marines. Maybe they're actually like serving officers in the same unit. If you were going to go with the Iraq War, one of the most intense battles is the Battle of Fallujah 1 and 2. So you could have it set with that where they're both
Oh, yeah.
heroic, but you both see them lose and have these impacts. Then you transition that over, and if you're able to get the Amazing Spider-Man there, you've got a blockbuster, but you have a franchise. And I don't know, we get Anthony Mackie who says he doesn't want to be Captain America. #anti-Captain
Got you.
America. It's just
But,
like
yeah.
I don't know what we're doing. But those are great points. Absolutely.
Well, the other thing is, in terms of going back to the point that you brought up, Orange, in terms of Castle revealing himself to the public, would the classic interpretation of the Punisher have done this? Most likely not. But the thing is, this particular interpretation, I don't think Castle was even thinking about the press being there. You notice his eyes never go near towards the cameras. He doesn't even acknowledge the reporters. His eyes are on the police chief and his partner,
Former partner.
Former partner. So the press being there was simply not even registering on Castle's mind. Now, do I agree that maybe most people wouldn't catch on to that unless they are? And I'm just saying, audience members, some people are going to catch it, others aren't. Some are going to be observant, some aren't. I'm not saying it is a criticism of the audience, by no means. So, but in this particular iteration, I don't have a major problem with him going out in public to the police station and dressing down the police captain and his former partner. By no means. I would probably do the same thing. Although I might go maybe just a smidge dramatic with my dressing down and maybe have a few pointy objects at my disposal. But that's me. That's my interpretation of the Punisher.
So yeah, we're not going to go over all of the great scenes, folks, because we actually want you to take a look at the movie if you haven't seen it yet. This movie is definitely one to check out. It has its great action sequences. It has its great comedy sequences even. Yes,
Definitely.
there is comedy in this, but there's also some dramatic moments too. The psychology of Frank Castle, played by Thomas Jane in this is a man that didn't just lose his wife and kids. He lost his whole fucking family. That is why in my opinion, this is the best version of the Punisher. Because this is a person who literally has no one and absolutely nothing to lose. And I think that unfortunately, critics were the ones who sank this film due to the fact that it's like, oh, it's this, it's that. It's like, fuck you. Critics, you are no longer really that relevant, in my opinion. Honestly,
and those critics probably don't actually read the comic books or anything like that. They're just media critics.
Well, neither do I. I mean, I don't read the comic books either, but I literally, most likely, wrote a better version of Frank Castle in my Dark Marvel story than Marvel Current. I will say that. And yes, it is a small boast, but it is a boast that I am feeling comfortable making because they're so offended by the skull, they had to change it. So yeah, that's just ugh. But anyway, with that, we're going to give our scores for it out of 10. I'm not going to do the 3-tiered. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Yes, objectively it has problems, but for me it is a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this film. And I will be discussing it later this month with Jade Shadow because we are not doing romance. We are doing absolute abject hatred for the month of February. So yeah, Punisher is one of those, as well as the movie Law Abiding Citizen. So
Ooh.
definitely, yeah,
Law-abiding.
definitely keep your eyes out for that one.
Yeah.
But going round table, Novus, or what's your score out of 10?
We're going to give it 7 out of 10, mainly also because you've highlighted it. You know, the emotional intensity, the quotability, and that dark humor. And hey, you got to give it up to the Russian fight sequence where he's clearly the tall. He's kind of like Dolph Lundgren in a way because he's got the bleached blonde hair. Spechna or airborne forces, and then in the other apartment, completely oblivious until they crashed through the door. They got the music and the opera going and spaghetti, and I mean, it doesn't get better than that. All they needed was somebody to smash a bottle of Italian red wine for effect, and it would have been molto bene. So we give it a solid 7 out of 10.
All right, Kate.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I really enjoyed watching it for the third or fourth time now. 7.5 out of 10.
All right,
But it does have issues, but it's way, I would give it way higher score than Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic.
Yeah. All right, Ambassador.
I'm going to have to give it an 8.5 out of 10 just because of the conversation we've had. I'm building a better version of this movie in my head, but the movie as it stands, it's an 8.5 for me out of 10.
All right, and with that, folks, thank you so much for joining tonight's discussion. I am going to keep this background for my discussion with Jade Shadow on this movie. We will be discussing it a lot more in depth and also showing the movie because I will be doing this on X exclusively instead of Facebook, or instead of YouTube rather. So yeah, I do want to thank Novus and NB Geek, Christian Freights, Junebug. Oh wow, I didn't even notice Junebug was in here. Riot Kitty, Goth Girl, Sakura, Jet Sparks, Vanya. Thank you to everybody who has been watching on X. Holy shit, 80 people watching. The 7 on YouTube and the 73 on X. Thank you so much for that, folks. Make sure you smash the like button. Tuesday, I will be talking God of War, the video game storylines, my favorites of all those things, including the Norse and the Greek. And that night, I will be on the Barroom Podcast at 8 p.m. And then Friday night should be Orange Hat Uncensored if I'm awake enough to do it. So yeah, with that being said, thank you to everybody. Is there anything that anybody wants to plug before we go?
Just briefly, real quick for me, just upload the latest episode 10 of the Tarantino podcast where me and my friend Ace, we discussed Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So go give that a check out. Leave your comments, all that good stuff. And also the stream discussion between myself, Orange, and MB Geek on Count of Monte Cristo and The Relic is up on my channel as well. Me and my man Ambassador are playing out the content for the channel for February. So keep an eye out for that as well. And always a great time with a truly exceptional panel of people. So as always, thanks for having me.
All right. And with that, folks, we are heading out. Y'all have a wonderful day. And always remember to stay humble.
Are you done? Are you done?